Hey guys, this is Jaren, and I thought you would be a little curious about the code behind the archers versus swordsmen minigame that I showed you in the other video. So here you go. Okay, here's the code for it. There's not a whole lot of stuff going on here, just because a lot of the complexity is hidden behind this library, the Team Deathmatch library, that takes care of a lot of the things that are similar between all deathmatch games, such as the need for player join and respawn mechanics, announcing a winning team, doing cool stuff like launching fireworks when somebody gets a kill. All that stuff is taken care of behind the scenes by this library. All right, so all we have to do is we call this init function, pass in the name of the game. In my case, is SVA. Make sure you don't have any spaces in this value because that'll mess up the way that the command works. Then we pass in the teams that are involved in the game. We've got the team of swords and the team of archers with their corresponding materials for their heads. Now, for this option, you can also pass in a player skull. So there's this block right here that creates a player head for the player, and you could pass in this player named block with a player name, and it could be any player name. It doesn't have to be a player that's on your server right now. You could even put Notch's player name here and have the swordsmen all have Notch's head as their skulls when they're battling it out. Okay, but that's just an option. Personally, I think it's a little more fun, a little more goofy to have these materials as their heads. It's kind of funny looking. All right, so that's what I did here. Then we specify the map schematic. So this tells the game state or the state machine that you want to use this map schematic as the map for this game. Then lastly, we pass in the winning score, which could be any number that represents how many times a team has to kill players on the other team before their team wins. All right, simple as that. Okay, so these last two functions are actually very similar if you look at the code, and these are responsible for giving the starting equipment to players when they either respawn from death or when they're initially spawned into the map in the game's beginning. And this is what determines what runs when the game is just starting. So you can see if you read this, which you should get in the habit of reading these blocks as you're using them, because it'll help you with memorizing the semantics and the meaning behind what you're doing. So if you read this, it says on game lobbied run a func. So essentially this tells the state machine that's behind the library to run this function when the players first spawn inside their arena cages. All right, so this function runs when all the players are initially going into their little cages. And when this function is called, the library passes in this event parameter. And this event parameter is going to contain all the teams that are involved in this game at the time. Okay, so in this case, there's actually only going to be two teams, Team Archers and then the Team Swords, but you could add more teams here if you wanted by just adding to this list, and then those teams would get passed into this function that runs when teams spawn in their capsules. Okay, so the first thing that I do for my game is I get the teams out of the event and assign them to this variable teams, and then I iterate through all those teams, and for each team I'm checking the name to see if it's archers, and if it is, then I loop through that the players in that team, giving them all a bow and several arrows, 64 arrows, and then otherwise they must be on the swords teams. So we just assume they're on the swords teams otherwise, in my case, or in the case of this game, and loop through all the players, giving them a diamond sword on that team. Okay, and then this other function is actually kind of analogous to it. So this function right here runs when players are respawned after death. So if a player gets killed in the minigame and they respawn in the Minecraft world, this is going to run and give them their equipment back and make sure that they're not taking any extraneous objects into the game. So it removes all their items and then gives them their starting equipment again. And that's about it. So that's as simple as it is. Since a lot of the complexity is hidden behind this library, it allows me to focus and allows you guys, if you want to use this library, to focus on just the fun details of your minigame and not as much on the harder to fathom and more kind of annoying things to deal with, like player join mechanics and all that stuff. Even though I kind of find that stuff fun, it's not fun for everybody. So there you have it, guys. If you have any questions about this library, you should leave it in the comments on my program profile on LearnToMod, or you could also comment on this video. All right, thanks a lot for watching once again. Bye-bye.